Hello friends, hope you all must be fit and fine. So today we are going to study or discuss an interesting chapter known as plant reproduction. So in previous chapter we have discussed about pollination and what is pollination and what are the agents of pollination. And in this chapter we will discuss how pollination occurs and what is the advantage of pollination. Now here, plant reproduction. In this chapter, we will study or discuss about process of sexual reproduction in plants, fertilization and formation of seeds, dispersal of seeds by air, water and animals. Other ways of reproduction in plants like vegetative reproduction, meaning vegetative reproduction for cuttings, stem cuttings, potato, onion, ginger, root, carrot, leaf, bryophyllum. Okay, so now let's start. Well, first let's there is an interesting question in this chapter. Let's discuss what it is. So, have you ever seen pinkish white structure on a potato or old potatoes at home? Do you know what these structures are? So, in this chapter, we are going to find out what actually these structures are. Now, here are some questions. Well, unscramble the parts below and some questions and all of these things. So now let's move on. All living things reproduce. The process by a living organism produces individuals of its own kind to continue its species is called reproduction. Let us study how reproduction occurs in plants. So see, all the living beings, whether it's on the earth like us humans or plants, animals, anything, need to produce different individuals of itself, and how its kind continues or its species continues, and this whole process is called reproduction. Process of sexual reproduction in plants, as we have seen here what we are going to study in this chapter. First, let us see process of sexual reproduction in plants. Plants can produce in many ways. They can grow from different parts such as leaves, seeds, stems, spores, and roots. When new plants are produced from the seeds of a plant, it is called sexual reproduction. Well, do you know what we are going to talk about today, or do you know you just get the idea? We are going to talk about growing up. No, not you growing up. It's about how the plant grows and how it germinates. You know what germination is? Well, we will discuss in this chapter. Process of sexual reproduction in plants. Plants can reproduce in many ways. They can grow from different parts such as leaves, stems, spores and roots. When new plants are reproduced from the seed of plant, it is called sexual reproduction. So what does it tells us? Plants, it says that plants which are in common, we can say all around us, can be reproduced or can be spread in species in many different ways. They can grow from different parts like leaves, stems, seeds, spores, and roots. And when it grows from the seeds of its own plant, it is known as the sexual reproduction. We have already studied the process of pollination in previous chapter, as you all know. Uh, Pollination is the transfer of pollen from the anther of one flower to the stigma of the same or another flower. The process of pollination by the fertilization and the seed formation, as we all have discussed in the previous chapter pollination, we all have seen that how the seeds are formed, how pollination occurs and everything, how seeds forms, how does the seeds or the pollen grains get into the stigma through the style, and all of the magic happens there. Now let us see the fertilization and seed formation. The same structure we have seen in the chapter pollination. Once pollen lands on the stigma over here, as you can see, This part of any, you can say, flower is known as the stigma. Well, once a pollen lands on the stigma, a pollen tube, you can see here, this is a whole tube, it's known as the pollen tube, travels down the style and enters the ovary. This whole part is known as the style. As you can see here, this outer skin, it's known as the style. Enters the ovary. You know where the ovary is? It's below down here. It's over here. And when it enters in the ovary, then all the magic happens there. Once pollen lands on the stigma, a pollen tube like here grows to the pollen grain which down the style and enters the ovary. Here you can say this outer thing or this whole thing is known as the style. Then after it enters the ovary. This thing is the pollen grains enter over from here to here, and then here you can see the pollen grains will fuse from the reproductive organ present in the ovules inside the ovary. Here when it fuses, or then you can see small eggs present in the ovary will form a single cell structure called zygote, or you can say here egg cell. Now, when the process of the fusion of male and female gamete in the ovary itself is known as the fertilization. After fertilization, the zygote forms an embryo within the ovule. Here you can see this thing is an ovule, this whole thing, and with the egg cell it forms to a zygote, and after that some process of fertilization happens and it becomes an embryo. When you will see, the ovule develops into the hard outer coat to protect the growing embryo and turns into seed. See, when you have seen seeds, it's very hard to press, isn't it? That's why seeds like you have seen gram. In the Hindi, we say it chana, right? So if you will press it when it's raw, it will be very hard to press because it have a tough outer covering which is known as the seed. The ovary of a flower swells upon fertilization and develops into a fruit. Here you can see this ovary will swell, or you can say just becomes a bigger into size, and this whole part gets removed. So that's what happens. The seed are present inside it, and this whole thing becomes into a fruit. Let's see an interesting fact. The study of seeds of fruit is known as carpology. Well, if you have seen a seed, then its studying is known as carpology. Very fun and interesting, right? Structure of a seed. Here you can see a whole structure of a seed. This is a seed. This is its outer coat, and the outer coat of the seed here you can see is known as the seed coat, and the small shoot coming out of here is known as the plumule until it's inside the seed. This center of the part is known as the radicle, which you have seen while eating apples or so. This whole yellow thing here, this is known as cotyledon, which is basically food for the embryo. Here you can see the seed coat provides protection to the seed and nutrition to the growing embryo within it. And the outer coating of the seed is known as the seed coat. Now let's move on. A seed can be divided into three main parts. The plumule, which grows into the shoot, like here you can see. The radicle, which grows into the root. Here is the small thing you can see, the white thing, which when the seed sprouts, you will see some white things. These are the white things over here. This portion becomes the white thing when the the seeds will sprout. These will be the white things over here. Now here next, the cotyledon, which stores food for the embryo. This part here is known as the cotyledon. Now let's move on. Germination of the seed. The process by which a new plant grows from its seeds is known as the germination. A plant produces many seeds. However, not all of them germinate. Certain conditions are required for the germination of the seeds. These conditions are the presence of air, light, warmth, and an optimum amount of water. What are the conditions for a seed to be grow and flourish into a proper plant is the presence of air, light, warmth, and enough amount of water for it to grow, to swollen up, and to increase its size so that it can be very loose, and then put it up into the soil so that it can grow well. Germination of seed has various stages. Let us now study about the various stages of germination. Germination of seeds start by absorbing water through the tiny holes in the seed coat. Due to this, the seed increases in size or swells. The seed coat bursts open. The embryo develops and the baby root called the radicles comes out first, followed by the baby shoot called plumule. Here you can see the germination start absorbing water through the tiny hole on the seed coat. Here if you will see, there is a very tiny hole in the seed coat somewhere, maybe. Then the water, which I before said is used for the germination of a plant. It's very important. It gets the water from the small hole inside the seed coat, and then after that it starts absorbing water and it swells up in its size and the seed coat bursts. The embryo develops and the baby root called radicle comes out first, followed by the baby shoot called the plumule. So what does it say? It basically says that if you will see seed, then you will find out that the plumule here comes out the latest. First the seed coat burst open, suppose there is a hole, and you will put water inside it. Then it will get water, and then it will swell up its size, like get 2 times bigger than it. And after that, the thing that's known as radicle, the whitest thing that you can see here, this thing comes first. This is known as the radicle, and after that the plumule comes, which is known as for the leaves of the plant. Now next, the baby root slowly forms the root system of the plant. The roots absorb nutrition and water from the soil. Now when you have the baby root formed from the radicle, then it slowly forms the root system and the shoot system as well. The baby plant with a small shoot and root is called a seedling. Here you can see a baby plant with a small shoot and a root is called the seedling. During the initial stages, this part, the white part here you can see, is known as the cotyledon. First, it's covered by a seed coat. Here, the outermost covering is the seed coat, and this part here, it's just hidden or just cut out, or I don't know. But there is suppose a seed, and this part over here is the white part is known as the radicle. The most outer part is known as the seed coat, and this is known as the cotyledon or first. During the initial stages, the cotyledon over here, which we have seen in this image or diagram of the seed, this is the cotyledon, right? Well, this cotyledon is has the main function to provide the food for the baby plant. Now over here you can see that this is a cotyledon just removing from the parent, the baby plant, because it has no need then. This cotyledon is not just here because it will then remove from its plant. And these are the leaves. When it's in initial stages, we might think that these things are its leaves, but these are the true leaves of a plant. Now here are some questions. Transfers male gametes into the ovules present in the ovary. Here you can see in this diagram, the pollen tube transfers the male gametes or the pollen grains to the ovary over here. So the correct answer will be pollen tubes. The process of fusion of male and female gametes is known as fertilization, or you can see over here, fusion is known as fertilization. Now next question. A flower swells up upon fertilization and develops into a fruit. The ovary of a flower swells. The outer covering of a seed is known as the seed coat, as we have seen here. Seedling is a baby plant with a small root and a small shoot. Now let's move on. Here are some conditions and some activities you might do. If you want to, you can do. Now next, dispersal of seeds. Seeds along with fruits are shed off upon ripening, but if a plant sheds all its seeds in one place, it will be overcrowded and the seeds will compete for air, water and sunlight. This will deteriorate the germination and would not grow into healthy plants. To avoid this condition, plants have a mechanism called seed dispersal. The scattering of the seeds to different places away from the parent plant by various agents is known as seed dispersal. While you may have seen trees in the forest, right? Is it that all the plants or all the trees are planted by us humans? It's not true, right? Because we can do anything, but we can't plant so much trees at one place in cells. So there is a special mechanism in plants known as seed dispersal, which helps them to grow properly and deteriorate from its parent plant so that it can get different places, so that it cannot compete for air, water and all of these essential things. Agents of seed dispersal. The agents that help in the seed dispersal are known as agents of dispersal. They help in scattering seeds to different areas. These agents are wind, water and animals. Some plants can disperse their seed by explosion. So what it basically says is, these are the agents of the seed dispersal known as wind, water and animals. Some plants disperse their seed by explosion as well. Well, we have discussed about so many things, right? These are the basic agents. Now that's all for today, I think. Now the rest of the chapter we will do in the other part. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you then don't forget to like, subscribe and share this video. Bye.